Hello, I'm Kat.
Hi, and my name is Hayley, and we were asked to film the Equality and Diversity and Inclusion dissemination events that ALSIS were running. Our main purpose was to film the events and film interviews from those who attended, as well as to see what equality and diversity and inclusion was all about from our perspective. And our perspective was that we had just finished our Petals Award and nearly qualified in that, and so we were asked from our perspective to share our thoughts on the three events.
I'd just like to share with you the experiences and the ideas that I got from the three events as a whole. Personally, when I was filming, going around, listening to the workshop, listening to the presentations, it was great that this funding was being used for so many diverse and different small minorities that normally, when you think about funding for minorities, there are things that you might not necessarily think of. For example, the Roma and Gypsy project, or the child sex trafficking, which was a very interesting and very eye-opening presentation. I thought it was money very, very much well distributed, and I thought that all of the projects were incredibly well put together, well funded, and it really showed in their presentations. One that particularly stood out for me was a seminar, a workshop on British Sign Language, on BSL, which was run by deaf learners, and it was about sort of how different sign language is to English, and how it's a completely different language. And I learned so much from this, and how difficult the process is for deaf learners to be educated in a way that hearing people may take for granted. And I learnt many, many different things about just how they have to adapt their learning and their teaching, which is something that we might not even think about.
Yeah, just carrying on from that, when we were filming the events, as we were filming the events, probably about halfway through, got the realization that if you're going to be filming an event and there's going to be deaf learners there, with the deaf learners there's also going to be interpreters. And so if this is going to be an equality and diversity and inclusion event, we would need to film this differently so that when we edit it and people watch it, they will be able to know what's going on and what's being said. And so we got that realization halfway through and changed how we filmed. We did do a bit of a trial at the end, because I'd never filmed deaf learners and interpreter together, probably only ever seen it on the TV. And so we did a bit of an experiment or trial at the end with the deaf learners, which is really great, and you'll be able to see those video clips on the website. So that was one of the things that stood out for me as somebody who films events, that if you're going to be filming these events with deaf learners and interpreters, you've got to film it differently. But also when it comes to the editing, it's going to take you doubly long to edit, because you've got to add in another camera, and if you need to, and some will want subtitles to know what is being said and what's being signed. And also, one of the things we have to realize in this area is that that's going to cost a little bit more than just having somebody there filming. So that's some of the things that we realize that needs to be taken into consideration. As well as part of our role was to develop questions to ask people who had gone to these events around the resources that they had developed and the programs that they had developed, and how they would like to see those used in different areas. And one of the questions was, would people like a more focused training on equality, diversity and inclusion? And the response was, yes, people would like to be more confident in this area. And one of the reasons that all these events were taking place was to share resources, and we came across some really amazing resources. Kat had a resource that really stood out for her at one of the events with Sophie.
That's right, yes. It was a sort of a program about a very unfortunate story of a young girl called Sophie who suffered quite a violent attack and was consequently killed because of the way she dressed. and I found it a very powerful thing. And it was Sophie's mother would come in to teach young learners, even adult learners, about sort of the prejudices that Sophie came across, and how unfortunate incidents like this may be prevented in the future. And I found it a very eye-opening and very worthy cause.
Also, part of our role at these events was to just assist in how all the events were run. One of the things that we realized is how important booking a room is for an event like this, because you've got so many things to consider. Lighting, you've got to consider your sound that you're going to be using, the screen, can everybody see the screen? Is it easy to get to? Can people find it? If you've got deaf learners there, or if you've got people who are blind, is the room suitable for them? So that was very, very interesting. I know that one time we were at an event and there was a lady who was partially blind, and somebody was showing a video clip, and one of the cables had a problem with it, and it was sending out a high frequency sound, and that really affected her, and that really stood out to me, because I didn't realize ever that a blind person would be so sensitive to sound. So that really was something that we learned from that event. Actually, we learned something from every single event in terms of equality, diversity and inclusion. Also, one of the things that stood out for me was just how important it is to include equality, diversity and inclusion in your lesson plans, and how you prepare your class, what terms you're using, how you're referring to people is very important. One of the things that Kat and myself have been involved with in a training centre is marketing. And we've been developing flyers, I've been working on a website. And after coming away from these events, I realised that I couldn't be using the marketing pictures that I had chosen because they weren't really inclusive. And I did try to get away from just using silhouettes, then that the problem's all solved. But actually you can't, because people don't connect with silhouettes. So as we were doing flyers together, it was very important, what pictures are you using? Are you being diverse enough? Where the flyers that you're using and the people that you're directing to, is it including the group that you want? So that has been quite challenging to myself. So I had developed some kind of website and really had to go back to the drawing board in terms of how we were going to work on the look and feel of the website.